Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the K-Life podcast. I'm Vaibhav and I'll be your host today. So before I introduce our guest for today, let me just say a little bit about Carmen Learning. So Carmen Learning is a nonprofit organization and we're dedicated to promoting youth education and wellness through a variety of programs. You can learn more about our work at carmenlearning.org. So, our goal here with this episode is to equip high school students with the knowledge they need to navigate the admissions process and to provide some advice on crafting essays that will help them succeed in now an increasingly competitive landscape. So, I'm honored to have Ms. Scudder as our guest today. She's a college essay advisor from Connecticut who provides comprehensive college counseling services, helping students navigate the college application process and craft standout essays. So, welcome. How are you today?
I'm good. I'm good. Thanks so much for having me. I'm honored.
So I know I said you were a college essay advisor, but just maybe you start off by telling us a bit about yourself and obviously like what you do and how you got into it.
Excellent. So my name is Maureen Scudder, and I live in Connecticut, and I have been a teacher for over 30 years. And through those years of teaching high school and middle school and college, I have also been helping students write their applications. So, a number of years ago, I decided that this was my cosmic task. That's what we say in the Montessori world. And and I've decided to concentrate on helping students, mostly high school juniors and seniors, prepare their applications, write their essays, and find their way to the college of their choice.
Yes, it must be a pretty complicated process, a long process too.
It can be long, and then some students, when they come to it closer to a deadline, it has to be sped up, and I do
Yeah.
both. I do both.
So obviously you've been doing this for a while and you've had a lot of experience doing this.
Mhm.
So do you have any like favorite things about it? Any like specific things that you really like about being an advisor?
Well, because the students, of course, that is my favorite thing to do is work one-on-one with students, which I discovered years ago as a writing tutor, writing instructor, that working one-on-one with someone is so satisfying. So I do continue to teach classes, but at the community college level, but working one-on-one with teenagers, well, that's my bailiwick. That is my jam, and that is how I want to spend my days. So that's why I do what I do.
So about the process in specific,
Mhm.
obviously over the recent years, I mean, obviously as time goes on, many things are going to change. Are there
Mhm.
any particularly like glaring changes you've seen that people should like be aware of or watch out for?
Um, at the risk of stating the obvious, students are applying to more schools. So the Common App has made that possible, and this competitive environment has made that more common. And
Yeah,
so, years ago when I applied to school, it was a very limited number of schools, and most of my peers did the same. But
right.
today, I'll help students apply to 15 schools. That's a tremendous number, even more sometimes. So that
Mm.
is a glaring change, if that, and
Yeah.
that's the biggest.
Um, so when people are applying to schools, obviously like the standard thing everyone talks about is like the SAT or the ACT or needing to do good on those. But now we've seen like recently so many schools have stated like, okay, we don't really consider it or it's just optional. You can do it if you want to, and we'll take a look at your score if you do end up submitting it. So how should you say students should go about that, whether they should submit them or not, and depending on what factors?
Mm. This may not appear as a great insight, but students should submit their score if it meets the average of a particular school. Um, Sometimes I'll recommend a student submit their score, even if it does not meet the average of that school, when one of the scores is particularly high. For example, if I have a client who wants to go to engineering school and they have an excellent math SAT score, even if their super score doesn't match the average, I still recommend they send if their math score is off the charts. So that is one recommendation I make. And yet that is a very personal decision ultimately. That has to be made by the applicant. They have to decide, are they willing to take what is a perceived risk to do such a thing.
Right.
But you do make a good point that test optional has changed the game, and it is a bit of a game. Um, but the applicant with a better score, does it help? Of course.
So like if you're, for example, if your strength is in one of the two or like math or English, you would recommend doing that because that shows your strength in a certain like area.
Right. And I hate the idea that a student has excelled so much in a particular area and can't showcase that. That to me
Hmm.
is
Yeah.
is actually upsetting.
Mhm.
So it's again, this is an emotional, this is not all logic, this whole process. This is why I'm drawn to it, quite frankly, because there's a lot of gray and it's a psychological journey, all of this. But that applicant has to decide, are they willing to? But I can't stand the idea of a math whiz not submitting that score, but I've seen it done.
Right. So like just show it's always good to show if you're really good at a certain thing, even though it might be lower at the other, it doesn't really matter because if you're specialized at one thing, it's always a good thing to show.
That's what I believe.
Right.
But this again isn't fact. There's not one way to do this. I always have to remind students of that. There's not one right way. I have my lens and I share it with students. And after so many years of experience and practice, they can choose, to, but they have to do what they believe is right as well.
Right. And obviously, like as I said earlier, the process has changed a lot. And like before, maybe tests were like or grades and tests were like the pure thing or the only thing that really mattered. But now there's so much around that with like extracurriculars and a bunch of other awards and a bunch of other things. So what would you say are the most important things colleges look for in a person applying?
I think they are looking to construct a class. You've heard that expression before, probably. So it's not, you don't know if you're offering a particular school that one element they're looking for. They're trying to build a class, and that class is made up of these kinds of students, those kinds of students, people who are interested in this, people who are interested in that. So they have their own agenda, and it can sometimes have very little to do with the
Yeah,
applicant. But I think what I always advise students to do is construct themselves. That is the best thing they can do for their application and for their lives is build an interesting person. That is your job. And
right,
not just jump through hoops, but find out what you're interested in and lean into it. And again, self-construction is the work of the adolescent. So if you are building who you are, figuring things out, taking those risks, and trying to get better at something, then you are becoming an interesting person. And that is what I imagine the admissions counselors are really, really looking for is an authentic, interesting person. Does that
right.
make sense?
Yeah, so like being genuine and kind of just showing exactly who you are rather than trying to make yourself look or like um yeah, make yourself look good for that college or for a specific
Right.
route.
Right. Because you can't know exactly who is on the other side and what is happening behind closed doors and what kind of class a school is building. And there's so many unknowns there.
Yeah.
So why even bend yourself into a pretzel trying to be something that you don't know they're looking for. It's much more beneficial to become your best self and
Mhm.
do what you care about. And get really good at it also, by the way. Because
Right.
you know what I mean? People that they're drawn to that. Like if someone is an expert in Taekwondo, that's cool. If they are an expert in Piccolo, that's cool. If they are is someone who works on a farm and works these 12-hour days, that's cool also. So
Right.
it's more about finding what is interesting to you as a person and forgetting being an applicant for a minute, and then you showcase it.
Right. So first find your like passion and what you want to do, what you love to do, and then go about how you want to like show that.
Right, right. Because then if someone rejects you, well, okay, so what? You did that for you anyway.
Right.
It didn't meet that external standard. It
Yeah.
That's okay. That's someone else is matching that standard or whatever they're looking for. But you're going to find your way over here, and you did what was right for you.
Right.
Um, so that's my opinion and approach.
And what did you mean by class when you said construct a class?
Well, if a school is welcoming in, like in a small school, 1,200 freshmen for the class of 2029,
Right.
then they may need a cellist. They may want swimmer. You don't know what
Oh,
they're
okay.
exactly building. Now, that's a little bit harder in a huge university, but the same theory goes, there's only so many students who will be welcomed into the nursing program, right? There's
Right.
only so many students who'll be welcomed into the engineering program. So they're building a class that just like that freshman class that you came in with in high school.
Right. Oh, so like constructing, so like colleges choosing a class, like a variety in the student population kind of.
Right. And we don't know what their priorities are.
Right. Yeah.
Sometimes someone will share it with you, and that's wonderful. And you should go on tours and you should ask lots of questions and you should listen carefully because you might get a sense of what they're looking for and what they're hoping to build. But you can't always know what's happening. And so you just have to be true to yourself.
Yeah. And so I know that you said you were a writing teacher at one point and you like specialize in the writing aspect of it. So obviously college essays, depending on the school you apply, the number of essays you have to write. But when choosing a college essay topic or something you want to write about, what would you say is the most important thing?
Honesty. And then aside, next, I'd say succinctness. So these admissions counselors, they are reading so many essays, so
Right.
many applications. So that honest voice, and then don't waste their time.
Right.
So those are my two, um, goals when I'm helping a writer attack these essays. And yes, I've been teaching writing forever.
So again, the similar thing about the being genuine, like same similar to your application, just
Right.
showing how like who you really are.
Yes. Yes. And worrying less about how they will receive it and more
Hmm.
about you having an authentic voice, being who you are, and sharing that with the reader. It is a different kind of writing than academic writing.
Hmm.
Although many students get a chance to do this kind of writing, this personal narrative, you may have heard, in your English classes, you'll get an
Yeah.
opportunity to write the personal narrative. But by and large, students in English classrooms are writing academic pieces, they're analyzing literature, poetry, writing arguments, those kinds of things. This personal narrative is a different kind of writing, and it's
Right.
about your voice. And do you leap right off the page? Do you come to life for that reader?
Mhm. So about that, when you're choosing a topic, is there a certain mistake you think you notice like okay a bunch of kids actually have made the same mistake and you see a common kind of trend and um a maybe even misconception doesn't necessarily have to be a mistake but like a misconception or a mistake when you first
Mhm.
start thinking about and writing college essays.
That's a great question. So, over the years, I've heard many, many other advisors, counselors say these are these are bad, and I'm using air quotes, topics.
Right.
And I just remember this from when I first started teaching in the early 90s. Like, don't write about pet death. Don't write about winning the touchdown or whatever, getting the touchdown,
Yeah.
winning the big game. Like, I've heard all of those things. I don't subscribe to any of that. Don't do this.
Hmm.
I mean, unless it's going to make you look like you cannot go to college.
Right.
See, then okay, that there is a bad topic out there. But by and large, I say that's not the case for me. You can do anything well if it's meaningful to you. The mistake, to use your word, would be to write an essay that someone else could have written. That's what I sometimes see. So once in a while, there's a sentence that someone else could have written. It could wind up in your essay, could wind up in your friend's essay. But if you have two sentences, three sentences, four sentences in a row that someone else could have written, they are
Right.
not specific to you. They don't name your school or your marching band or your whatever. It then it's not, you won't lift off the page. That's
Right.
what you have to remember, is that it has to be only yours. That's
Mhm.
my belief. So it's really not about the topic, it's about the detail and the voice. And
Mhm.
if you sound like yourself, then you are accomplishing the goal.
So being specific and like not being too general or broad about whatever you're trying to say.
Exactly. Now, there are truths, there are universal conclusions we draw from experiences. I learned a lot from my grandmother, that kind of thing. Fine.
Right.
That's going to happen, but that's the human experience. So that's good. But if you find that there are sentences upon sentences that someone else could have written, then that's what I say is the mistake, if you
Hmm.
know, if
Right.
we can use that word. Um, I see a lot of students write with adjectives and adverbs, and prose moves faster with nouns and verbs. So there's no reason to weigh down your writing with a lot of description. That is
Okay.
something we practice in English classes, and I
Right.
appreciate it. And I love novels. I'm an avid reader. But if you want your prose to move fast, then then write with fewer adjectives and adverbs and just boom,
Right.
noun,
S-
noun, verb.
So like those like fillers or just extra um trying to make it like extra details, try to like cut
Right.
down on those kind of.
Yeah. So it sounds like I'm talking out of two sides of my mouth because I'm saying be very detailed. But when I say that, I mean talk about your sister Joanne.
Right.
I don't mean talk about your beautiful sister Joanne with long flowing blonde hair.
Right, right.
No, no, no. Just talk about Joanne. Joanne
Hmm.
taught you this.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
And so obviously with the essays y- people either can start working junior or senior year, but with school being a big factor, like you always have to manage starting your application, writing your essays with also schoolwork.
Yeah.
So when would you say is an ideal time, in your opinion,
Okay.
to start like crafting your essays, start working on them?
That's a great question too. And if any of my clients ever listen to this podcast, they'll say, wow, she really does mean it, because I say this all the time. There's never a wrong time.
Mhm.
There's never a
Right.
bad time to come find me. I have clients who I have worked with since freshman year of high school. I have Seniors, I mean, I'm going to get off this call tonight and I'm going to be working with someone with a January 1st due date.
Oh
So
wow.
yeah, exactly. There is no, is that late? I mean, yes, it is a little bit, but there's no wrong time. Now, if I am working with a student, freshman, sophomore year, I'll say the same thing that I said earlier in the recording, which was construct your life, build an interesting person, find things you care about, be true to who you are, experiment. All of those things, I repeat them. That's really what I believe.
Right.
Um, I also will tell the students at that age, there's nothing we can do in writing these essays that can undo your transcript. Your
Right.
transcript is primary. That always must be your first priority.
Mhm.
And the writing we do later, well, that is going to solidify it, right? Like then,
Right.
but you must be a student first. Um, it is really wise to start writing your applications at the end of junior year or the summer before senior year. So if you're really looking for me to say what's an ideal time, your language, I'd
Mhm.
say the summer before senior year.
Okay. Um, so obviously we talked about the essay. So when you about like keys to essays, obviously the being genuine, would you
Mhm.
say you have like for example, how you said of like jumping off the page and trying to make yourself stand out, would you say like the first like paragraph is like the most important?
I think you can lose a reader, and that goes for anything, right? When
Hmm.
you read an article and you open something up on your phone and you start reading, and the first line or the first paragraph is a mess, you won't continue.
Right.
So, yes, openers matter, but it is only the Common App essay is only 650 words. Many of the supplemental essays are 150, 250, 300 words. Some are longer. Um,
Mhm.
those shorter essays, there's not a heck of a lot of time to lose someone.
Yeah.
um, Quite brief. Some are only 50 words, by the way.
Oh, wow.
But I, I guess I don't say to students, well, you won them over in the first few sentences. Now you can take your foot off the gas.
Yeah, yeah.
It's really important to keep your foot on the gas as a writer and the reader's foot on the gas through
Hmm.
the entire essay.
Right. So convey your point, but like keep it engaging throughout your whole.
Exactly. Keep it moving, keep it moving, keep
Right.
it. Yeah, yeah.
And so for students who are trying to go to like, for example, they're trying to go to their dream school or like a really good school, obviously um everyone else applying to that school is probably also going to have really good grades like they might have,
Right.
or like a strong transcript, like a good SAT score, or like test scores, like grades and
Yeah.
test scores. All of them are going to be like very, very similar. So when it's down to something like that, how would you say is the best way to strengthen your application beyond just grades and test scores?
Right. Well, the essays.
Yeah.
That's my hope. I mean, that's what I really believe.
Right.
And I never say the essay is the most important thing. Like we were saying before, the transcript is paramount. And if you're
Mhm.
submitting scores, those are extremely important. But the essay, I believe, or essays can push your application into the accept pile. And that's by making it sing. And
Yeah.
that's, being an interesting and authentic person with a strong writer's voice. And if an applicant has done all those things, then they have to leave it up to the wind. You are absolutely right that these schools are getting thousands of applicants with similar credentials. Um, and so I really hope that no one beats themselves up
Right.
when they are rejected because at the top like that, you can't know. You
Yeah.
could. You can do everything right. You just have to that and that's my goal with writers, that you feel like you did everything right, and then it's out of your hands and it has nothing to do
Mhm.
with you anymore. But those essays, they do need to knock someone over.
Right. But feel like you did what you needed to do with your essay and with whatever you're submitting and like be content with it. Don't like beat yourself up
Yeah.
over it.
Totally, totally, totally.
Right. And this might be an interesting question, but um quite a simple question too. Like
Mhm.
the early decision, early action, the regular decision, would you approach that? Because obviously the acceptance rates are usually higher through early decisions.
Mhm.
So what would you say is like the difference between the early decision or like the restrictive early actions and the regular decisions?
Yeah. It's personal decision. It's a family decision. It's a financial decision. Um, I never pressure anyone ever, period, in any
Yeah,
parts of their application. So that is my approach, period. I certainly don't pressure anyone to apply early decision.
right. That's because that's early decisions binding, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Exactly. No, yeah, it is. And so again, that is very personal, but um, I want clients to feel like, or applicants in general. So if anyone, people who are listening to this and they don't hire me and I just want them to feel like they are in control.
Right.
And you are in the driver's seat. And once
Mhm.
you relinquish control, you feel out of control. You've handed all your power away to the schools. Your ego is tied up in it. All of that. That's a problem for me. So if I say to an applicant, you are in control and you can make this decision, and I stand on the sidelines. And it can take a day, a week, a month, even the night before the early decision deadline comes. I have students change their mind. And
Right.
they have to do that with
Mhm.
their parents' help. I mean, that is
Yeah.
not, again, it's a financial decision too.
Mhm.
But but they need to feel agency. And if they, again, like that application, feeling good about it and submitting it and saying, okay, I've done my best. That's how I feel about the early decision, early action,
Right.
restricted early action, all of that.
And this actually just made me think of something else. So, uh, based on your experience, would you say college visits help in any way, or are they just like a minimal factor or anything like that?
Yes. They help the applicant.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I know demonstrated interest matters. I don't know all the algorithms and protocols of different schools, but if a school is monitoring, they can monitor. They can see, they can watch you in every particular way. We know this.
Right.
We know this from
Yeah.
Google and Alexa and all of it. But it is better for the applicant. So if I keep my eyes on my approach, which is I care about the kid, then the kid goes to the campus and learns something. That's what it's about for me. You walk onto that campus. Can you imagine yourself here? Um, did you have a positive experience? All the quote unquote demonstrated interest is good for the applicant.
Right. So while you're also showing interest, you can see if this environment would suit you or if you feel like you would be comfortable here for like the next 4 years.
Right, right. All of your research is like that.
Hmm.
You open up those emails, do they tag it? Do they give you a point? You spend time on their website, do they monitor it? Do you sign in at the admissions office? Do they calculate it? I, I don't know all the time, but I know it's better for the applicant to
Hmm.
know. So that's my advice.
Right. And so just like kind of, I guess this is more of a recap kind of thing, but in so obviously in the junior and senior years of high school is when you're going to be preparing and like going through the application process. So if you're starting early, like a junior, even if you're doing it like a bit later as a senior, what are steps a student should take to prepare and like go through it as smooth as possible?
Mm. Well, again, no one's late, no one's early, but I do advise sophomores and juniors to get on campus when schools are in session. And that can be tricky, especially for athletes and musicians and people with lots of other responsibilities. So, because the school year is September to May for colleges, and you have, particular vacations or long weekends, I'd say get on campuses, do your tours sophomore and junior year, and then start writing your applications during the summer, soon as school is out of junior year. And if
Right.
you work steadily throughout the summer and you have an ambitious list of schools, and this isn't for everyone, some students are going to apply to one school that they already have in
Mm,
their pocket. But if
yeah.
you have an ambitious list of schools and you start writing as soon as the school is out junior year and you work steadily all summer, you will complete your applications without much grief. And that's my goal.
Right. And obviously there's so much to say about the process and getting through it. But if you had to make it one piece of advice, like just one thing you could say
Mhm,
to kids out there that are going through the process right now or they're gonna go through the process,
mhm.
what would that be?
Just dial down the stress. Just dial it way down. Dial it down for yourself, dial it down for your friends, your peers.
Yeah.
Um, if if people want to ratchet it up, that's where it will go. If
Mhm.
students decide to dial it down, that's where it will go.
Right. It is a very stressful process. I mean, it's like a life-changing decision almost.
Dial down the stress.
Yeah. And the last obvious question, so if students or parents want to reach out to you to get your advice, how can they get in touch with you? So like contact information or anything like that.
Sure. Oh, thanks so much. Well, it's Maureen Scudder. It's Maureen C. Scudder, college essay advisor. That my website is maureencscudder.com. My email is maureenScudder99@gmail.com. And anyone is welcome to call me, and my phone number is all over the website as well.
Right.
I'm not a hard person to find.
So if anybody wants to reach out and get help, you can always reach out to Miss Scudder.
You
Uh,
bet.
sh and thank you for joining today.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
And I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of the podcast, and we'll see you next time.
All right. Bye-bye.